Hi, we're Team Wombo Combo, and this is our pitch for Yumi Origins of an Empress. I'm Ashley Dryden.
I'm Jason Carrot.
And I'm Adam Bogle to Florence.
Yumi is a fantasy RPG that's set in third person that is set to release on PC, PS4 and Xbox One, and it centres around a main character who can control a mystical hybrid weapon and must use it to regain her rightful place as leader of a great kingdom. Set in feudal Japan, the kingdom, ruled by the great Emperor Rizo, has lived in peace for many years, but peace came at a cost, and this cost was the promise of marriage. Rizo promised a rival emperor that his daughter, Yumiko, or Yumi for short, would marry his son, Tokumuni, when she was of age. Yumi has always been special. It is said that when she was born, the very trees shook to announce her arrival, for Yumi had a power, the power to alter the very wood around her. This power was thought to have been lost for generations. When Yumi turned 16, Rizo needed to act on his promise of marriage, but Yumi refused, stating that marriage was for the choice of the person getting married, not their father. But her refusal caused great anger in Tokumuni, and in retaliation, he killed her father, and Yumi had to escape the kingdom in fear for her life. Cast down in the forest of the kingdom, Yumi ran through Rizo Forest, where a great tree stood. Its once purple leaves had begun to turn black as Rizo had passed. Running through the forest, Yumi is cornered by Tokumuni's forces, and just as she was about to be killed, her powers unlocked, killing everyone around her. In the aftermath, Yumi fashioned a weapon that can alter into a sword, a bow, or a staff. Yumi escaped from the woods, but unable to fathom what had just happened. As Yumi escaped from the woods, she was met with the monks of the Buddhism temple. They pledged their allegiance to Yumi and vowed to help her harness her newfound power, so she can take her rightful place on the throne. How will you take back the kingdom? Using a bow, a sword, or a staff? Here is a map of the kingdom. It's a very small area, but it's open world.
Controls. Control scheme is generally the same as most other shooters like Call of Duty and Overwatch, in that all the general things like aiming, shooting, crouching or reloading are as you'd expect if you've played shooters before. The abilities will have a similar function to the communication wheel in Overwatch, where you hold down one button to bring up a selection and then choose one of them. And then pressing back on Xbox or the touchpad on PS4 will bring up a menu showing all your active quests and everything to do with your abilities and XP and everything. And then start will obviously pause the game where you can go to options or quit. On PC you'll be able to map certain abilities to the number keys to just speed up the game flow and have less time selecting abilities. And then on console you'll have the same thing but just with the D-pad. So that's the only benefit of playing on PC. You get more options there. The main protagonist is Yumi, who you play through the entire story. She's a 16-year-old girl who was brought up from a young age learning archery and sword fighting, so she has experience as she played the game already. Throughout the whole game you just have one weapon, which is a small cylinder piece of wood, which she can extend into various weapons like swords, bows and staff. Which allows all kinds of different play styles. And then the player can choose to go down skill trees to upgrade weapons or abilities, or they can choose to have a mix of them rather than get all the highest level ones. She starts in an archery uniform at the start of the game, but then you can get costumes. These are some examples of them. And some of them will be cosmetic only, some will give you, might enhance your mobility or combat, and they'll be obtained through bosses or the end of quests or from shops and stuff. For enemies, we want all the enemies to be very unique throughout the world, so the combat doesn't get too repetitive, and then there'll be either human enemies, which are found at certain story paths or quests, and then creature-based enemies, which are all based on Japanese legends, which will be roaming around the world at all times. This wolf-like enemy is a really unique one because it follows the player around only in forests, will only attack if they get knocked over by other enemies, and there'll usually be more of them hidden around, so you basically have to just keep aware of your surroundings at all times, while in the forest anyway. But it'll also leave you alone if you leave the forest without attacking. And then this is one of the most basic human enemies. It's just a basic ninja who has a Kusarigama, which is a small side-flight weapon with a chain and a weight on the end of it. So they have lots of different attacks and they can attack at different ranges, even though they're one of the weaker enemies in the game. On harder modes, the enemies will get more attacks and more weapons to use, and obviously they'll get stronger throughout the story, and there'll be lots and lots of different enemies throughout the game. The bosses, again, we want the bosses to be more unique and fun to fight rather than just bullet sponges and be boring to play. And then this ninja one is one of the earlier game bosses, which will attack with knives and shurikens by jumping around trees and stuff really quickly, a bit hard to hit. You have to defeat it by using arrows that are like tied together with string, and you'll shoot one at her and one at a tree, which will basically restrict the movement. If you do it again, it'll stop her when you get in a strong attack, and you'll have to do it multiple times as she gets harder throughout the fight. And then there will be one of the weaker enemies bosses, so it won't be too hard, but we don't want it to be too easy that it doesn't even feel like a boss at all, so it needs to be still a challenge. And then this one is Hanzaki, which is a giant salamander boss, which will be later in the game. The way to defeat it will be like attacking its mouth when it tries to bite you or charges towards you, or if it hits a wall and gets stunned, you can attack it. It will also attack with like its tail or throw giant boulders at you and stuff. And then this will be one of the later game bosses, so it will be much harder than the first one. And then these are just some other examples of enemies and bosses we've got, like people with bows and knives and spears and stuff, with like claw warrior idea. And then there's some things based on Japanese legends again, like these giant bears that stand on two legs and massive flying mythical creatures for bosses.
Okay, the leveling in our game will be inspired by Skyrim and Fallout in a way that you can level up certain skills that you have in the game. This will then lead on to giving you perks and abilities within the game to do with that part of the leveling tree. We chose this leveling system because it works with other RPGs. Also, it is another level of progression because people will want the perks that come with that level. We'll have real-time combat because we think it's more intense. You don't have much time to think about your play within combat. We think it would be very slow if it was turn-based, like some RPGs such as Pokemon. We want to keep the player on their toes and excited. We want them to feel insecure about the combat. We want them to not know what's coming next. Another part of combat is the fact that you can plan out beforehand whether you want to go in stealthy or not so stealthy. Our exploration, it will be open world and the main story arc will be linear. However, there will be optional side quests as they progress through the world, as the player progresses through the world. Being an open world game, it gives the player a bit more freedom. It's kind of like a hybrid game because you get the organised, satisfying story of a linear game, but you also get the freedom of exploration like a non-linear sandbox game. This is good because it does not flood the player with missions that they feel they have to do. The side quests are strictly optional. Unique selling point. We have a couple of main unique selling points. One of them being our main protagonist weapon that Ash had mentioned earlier, being a piece of wood that can transform into different weapons. Another unique selling point is the fact that you can plan your mission whether you want to do them stealthily or not so stealthily.
Difficulty. The players choose difficulty at the start of the game, and they can change this throughout the game if they want to. So you can have easy mode if you're not used to these sorts of games, or if you're proficient in games such as like Metal Gear Solid, you can choose different game modes. The enemies will learn and adapt to your techniques and playstyles. So if you choose to go in there stealthily, they will have additional armour once you start attacking them. If you keep shooting them through the head, they'll start wearing like tin hats and stuff like that to deflect the arrows. And if you go in there all swords blazing, they'll start putting assassins in there to jump you as you go to move in. Bosses will have more attacks on harder difficulties, so they'll start off with 3 basic attacks that are random each time. So if you lose to the boss and then go in, they'll have the same attacks, but they'll mix them up a little bit. So instead of using the same 3 over and over again, it might use attack 1, then attack 3, then attack 2. On harder difficulties, they'll have 5 attacks that they will randomly go through to keep you on your toes and make it feel like more of a challenge. Enemies will scale to your level end game, so once you've completed the game, you can go through the areas and get additional armor, but the enemies will be your level, just so it's not a complete walk in the park at the end of the game. Skill trees, it will be sort of like Skyrim. You'll have 3 skill trees depending on your weapon, so you'll have 1 for the sword, 1 for the bow, and 1 for the staff. They will level up, and you'll get levels as you use the weapon, so the more you use the weapon, the more unlocks you'll get. At the end of the skill tree is a massive attack that are on the screen right now. So you'll have the choice of either Breath of Wind with the bow, Breath of Rajin with the spellcasters, and Wrath of the Kaiju with the sword. Yumi can unlock cosmetic enhancements for her weapons. These are purely cosmetic, and you get these by meeting certain criteria. So with the sword, you kill 2,000 NPCs. With the bow, it's a bit more challenging because you've got to get 500 headshots. You can probably do them both at the same time. And then with the Staff of the 6 Perfections, you've got to put enemies within an AoE and kill them all. There's several unlockables that Yumi can unlock with her outfit. The first one being the Zen Buddhism outfit. One of the most notable is the ninja one, because these drop as you kill the ninja. If you get the full set, you can basically blend in and get the upper hand on them. They won't attack you until you attack them.
Interface. This is a menu that we designed for the concept of a menu that we designed. For this concept, we wanted to make the menu look as simple as possible. We did this because, as the player, we don't want to be bombarded with information when we start the game. The pause menu will look quite similar to this, again, not being too informative, not having too much information to bombard you. The next one is the hood. Our hood will inform the player, but also will not bombard them with too much information. A good hood should give you information about what weapon you're using, how much health / mana you have, and which way you're facing. We try to include all these things in our concept of the hood. Here's some icons that will go along with the perks and abilities that you have in the game. Thank you. Audio. Our game will have some good audio feedback that we think is quite a main priority within the gameplay experience. For example, when our main character gets hurt, we think she should cry out in pain, or when she's low on health, her breathing and heart rate should pick up pace. The audio feedback for when the player does, we think that there should be some audio feedback for when the player does something correctly as well. So we want some sort of subtle noise that indicates when you complete an objective. Think Rise of the Tomb Raider or Zelda.
Cutscenes in Yumi will be in-game, and they'll be using the power of the Unreal Editor and the Sequence Editor. We think that nowadays in-game cutscenes are the way to go rather than pre-rendered, because this allows us to add customization on the fly there. So if there's any sort of path that the player chooses, and depending on what they choose, we'll edit like the in-game cutscene, end-game cutscene. The cutscenes will be used to introduce bosses, so think Metal Gear at the start, it will introduce the boss, it will zoom into them, show a couple of their abilities, and then the boss fight will start. After the boss is defeated, another cutscene will play to show Yumi obviously sweating because she's been fighting a boss, and then it will go back into the game. Some cutscenes will be used to convey dialogue, such as sort of like in Heavy Rain and some other RPGs.
Bonus material, DLC. We want a single-player story that takes place after the main story. This is appropriate because it sticks to the trend of single-player fantasy and it requires us not to get rid of our current protagonist that we spend quite a bit of time on. The story-based DLC that takes place after the events of the main story will be good because when people finish our game, they'll be asking what happens next. This DLC will add new enemies, new weapons, new armor, and most importantly, new story. Other things that we are going to add in the DLC is new abilities and new perks. We recommend that the player finish this main story before they move on to the DLC. Unlockable content. The unlockable content in our game will mostly be costumes, armor, and weapons. These items will be unlocked by doing specific objectives and or getting achievements within the game. Another way you could get these items is buying them in the in-game shop, but you'd have to make a lot of money to get the rarest items. Some items you won't even be able to get in the game shop. An example of unlockable content that you could get in our game is a new costume you get if you completed 100% of the main story.
Any questions?